Still working on question 10 here, and I just finished doing part B, where I graphed this line here for y equals 2x plus 6. Part A had me graph this line here, a line that has a slope of negative 0.5, and it goes through this point here, 5, 1. So now I got two lines, and part C is saying find the point on the graph where they intersect. Intersect just means where they cross, like the intersection of a street, right, with another street. So here I can see that this line and this line, they cross right at this point here. And if I want to know what its coordinates are, I know I got to do x's first. That's -1, and then y's gives me +4. So that point right there, I'm going to write it in that the coordinates for that point are -1 for x, 4 for y. And put that as my answer. Now you might notice a few things. One is if I were to take -1 and drop it into this equation, 2 times -1 gives me -2. -2 plus 6 gives me 4. So that's another way I can cross-check. Like 4 is what I end up with the y. That works in this equation here. And it also, if I remember, I go back here and I was doing over 2 and up 1, back 2 and up 1, back 2 and up 1. I end up right at this point here as well. So both of these lines really are hitting this point bang on, -1 and 4. Now part D, I'm going to clear a little bit of space here. Part D is asking me to give the equation for the line I graphed in part D. Sorry, in part A. And I know that if I want to give the equation for a line, I need two things, right? You think of it like this. You're always writing y equals ax plus b, right? Y equals ax plus b, and the a is always the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Well, here I see that the slope, it already told me the slope was -0.5. Or remember we said it was also 1 over -2. So I'm already partway there. Let me clear this out and write something else instead. Now that I know what a is, it's -0.5. Let me write that. Y equals -0.5x plus b, just to make me feel a little bit closer to the end. The only thing I'm missing here is b, the y-intercept. And I know that every time I went over, like back 2 and up 1, back 2 and up 1, back 2 and up 1, so this point here is halfway between 4 and 3 on the y, right? And the x-coordinate is 0. So I can, because I've really been careful with the slope here, I can tell that the answer for the y-intercept here is exactly 3.5. But even if I can't say that, because I'm not sure from looking at my line that it's really bang on, I can say, well, let me take this equation here and use that trick that we've already been using in class and say, if I know one point on this line, which is 5 and 1, then I can plug the x into the x, the y into the y. Now, if you're not sure what I'm doing, I'll tell you what I mean. Remember, we know that this point, 5 and 1, is on this line. And if I know the slope is -0.5, then let me rewrite this equation, and instead of putting x there and y there, I'm going to use the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate for the point that I know. So what that looks like is this. Instead of writing y here, I'm going to put in the y-coordinate that I know, which is 1, and the x-coordinate that I know is 5. And now I'm just going to do some sec 1 algebra here. 1 is equal to -0.5 times 5 plus b. Let me do, in my head, what's 5 times 5? Well, that's 25. So it's -5 times 5, that's -25. Since I got a decimal in there, I'm not going to write -25, I'm going to write -2.5. So 1 is equal to -2.5 plus b, like that. And now, if I want to figure out exactly what b is, I got to isolate b. I got to get b alone. The way I'll do that is I'll say, let me add positive 2.5 to this so that I get rid of this. And I can add positive 2.5 to this side as long as I'm fair about it and do the same thing to the other side. Right? That's how algebra works in equations. You do something to one side, and in order to get rid of this, you want these two guys to knock each other out. And you find out that b is what I get when I add 1 and 2.5 together. Right? So if I do that, I will end up with 3.5 being equal to b. That's what happens here. And that is the answer I got before. So since I know that my slope is -0.5 and my b is 3.5, I can write the full equation. Y equals my slope, -0.5 times x, plus my y-intercept, which is 3.5. Or you could also say that it's 7 over 2. And there's your answer, y equals negative 0.5x plus 3.5. Now the last question in part 10. Find the distance from the origin. Remember where the origin is, guys? That's this funny little point down here. 0, 0 are the coordinates. Find the distance from the origin to the point you discovered in part C, which up here we know that's minus 1 and 4. So this is asking you to do a little bit of the old Pythagorean theorem, right? I need to draw myself a right-angled triangle in order to figure out what the hypotenuse is of that right-angled triangle. I know that this side here goes from the x-axis all the way up to 4, so I know that its side length here is 4. And I know that this side length here, which goes from 0 all the way to minus 1, I know that it's exactly 1 unit long in the Cartesian plane. And if I have a right-angled triangle and I know its legs, which are these two sides, 1 and 4, the two shorter sides, if I know that its legs are 1 and 4, then I can use the Pythagorean theorem, which says a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Right? If I know that's true, then I just have to substitute a and b in there and then solve for c. So a and b, remember, a and b are the two legs of the triangle, and we said that this one's 1 unit long, this is 4 units long. So I'm going to put my a is 1, my b is 4, and I got to square these. 1 squared, I know that. 1 squared is 1. 4 squared is 16. Together, if I add them, I should get c squared. So 1 plus 16 will be 17. And then if I want to find out what c is, I got to just square root both sides. Oh, where's the... Oh, look, there it is. 17 is equal to the square root of c squared. And if I square root both sides, I get about 4.12. So I should use the squiggly equal sign here, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know where it is on this keyboard. So I get that the length is 4.12. So the hypotenuse here, the distance from the origin to that point, is 4.12.